Hello, everybody. This is Tenacious Earl on Tabletop Baseball Plus. First, apologies for my voice. I'm going to sound a little on the crispy side because I'm sort of fighting a head cold, and I struggle with my current setup here. I feel like I just don't particularly like uh, having to do this, but I'm trying to keep this camera at a point where you can see my workspace here, so bear with me. All right, so we are going to do the round preparation, the tournament preparation for the 2018 San Diego Open, which is the third tournament in the Tenacious Golf Tour. That's a tournament that is a 156 player field, and so I've done a couple things here that I feel like will greatly increase my I don't want to say enjoyment, but it'll just give it some extra depth, I feel like. So I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. And so as you recall, I just released a video a couple days ago, maybe yesterday, which I had recorded actually the day the tournament finished, like a few hours later, and I just kind of forgot to make it public, but which explained the money leaderboard and all that kind of stuff, where people stand. And so I'm not going to go through that here in this one. Just know that this is 24 tournaments, and this is the third. After 6, I'm going to use an algorithm to try and adjust, maybe do some adjustments in the tournament ratings. We'll see how that works out. But I'm going to turn it around right now and get my camera set up right and get the cord out of your way. Okay, well, it's still in the way, so let's see how I can do this. I think it's still going to be a problem at some point here. Gravity will run its course, but I kind of feel like this is a better vantage point to see that my workspace here. So, and give me a second here. As I said, I'm fighting a cold, as I think a lot of people in this great world of ours currently are. So, if you're with me on that, welcome to the club. I don't wish it on anybody. Anyway, all right. So this week I bought a new notebook, and I transferred my information from the other one. I don't want to make any. It's not really an endorsement or anything, but I had been using a journal that was like glue bound or whatever you call that, and I prefer this wire bound just because it'll sit like that, and it makes it a heck of a lot easier than having to like hold open the page and all that stuff. I mean, I'm sure everybody's. I mean, that's, this isn't necessarily a office supply channel, but I guess that's a recommendation at this point. I would just say is if you can get the wire bound, I think they work out a lot better. I tried something else and I wasn't too pleased. So, first off, I have baggies that I have split. So if you can see here, it's kind of tough to see unless I move my hand there, because I used a marker that like blends into my hand quite a bit, but that says Qualifiers. So I have 3 bags at the moment, and I might have to go to a 4th, and I'll show you why. But this is the Qualifiers, and I already pulled the cards out of that. I also have these 2, which are the tour players. There's 125 in this. It may go up to 126 or more. It was last time because Toshio Takai had finished in the top 10 as a non-exempt member of the tour. So anybody who's exempt go into those 2 bags, and then the Qualifiers will stay in the other bag. So here was my dilemma going into the last couple days, looking ahead at this tournament. I knew I had a 156 player field. And these are the rest of the qualifier cards that I had, which total, I believe, 34. So when you get I believe that's the case. It may be 36, but in any regard, I can make it so you can see it here, and I apologize for the shadows. So this is all the tournament information. San Diego Open. The virtual date for this is going to be February 8th through 11th, 2018, La Jolla at Pacific Pines. Go ahead and do a search. You can figure out what the name of that course is. $6 million purse, just like the first two. We haven't gotten any more rich purses, but we will. 156 player field. So 125 tour players. And mind you, I eventually want to come up with some kind of a way to figure out how many these tour players would like take the event off, because I would say every tour event has a certain number of players who decide, they either they need a break to refresh, they have, a wedding to go to, they've got, medical issues, all that kind of stuff. And I haven't really looked through the book enough to know whether or not that some of that, like the medical stuff, is in like the special results or stuff like that. Maybe there are, but eventually I'm going to try to figure out a way to make that more realistic, because you aren't going to have 125 players. But so I need 31 Monday qualifiers to get to 156. Do the math. But the trouble is that I had, for 31 qualifiers, I had about 35 players, and I just felt like that's not much fun to just basically take everybody but 4 guys. It didn't seem to really make much sense. So what I did a little sniffing around. I had been sniffing around before for like custom courses and things like that, because I have 2 tournaments this year. Actually, 3 tournaments right now that I don't have courses for, and they're all majors. Shinnecock Hills for the U.S. or the American Open. Championship of the UK is Carnoustie, and Bellerive would be the Tenacious Pro Showcase, or that's my name for the PGA Championship. So I've been looking around for courses, and there are some lists around, and a site that's on those lists that has some of those courses is Back to Minnesota. I believe it's backtominnesota.com, but I would search in Google for Back to Minnesota, and it'll get you there. He had a nice template that's an Excel file that you can create your own cards, and I even took it a step further and was able to figure out how to somewhat automate that. So you have, and I think this has been done with History Maker Baseball as well. It's not like I'm the first one to have done that, but I was able to kind of do that on my own. Come up with a secondary sheet which has all the traits, and get the template to fill in with all of that information that you pre-populate. And so just a little more description on, because I figure this is part of the preparation, is how do I make these? Well, and how do I design the players? Well, I would say I didn't really necessarily design them per se. I didn't go through and say, okay, I want a player that's got these wood qualities, these iron qualities, this putting, this is what I did. And if anybody else wants to try it, be my guest. I'm interested to see how this works out in this. I mean, it may make players that don't really play very well, or it might make somebody who's like Tiger Woods. I don't know. I guess we'll have to see. But I basically just set up a sheet with a first name and a last name column. I went to a random list generator, generated random first names for men and last names. And I tweaked a few of those after the fact, because I'm a creative kind of guy, and thought, that first name, what would be interesting to put with that last name? What would say, I'm trying to do a little bit of mind, use my mind to see if I can create some players that might connect with people. So whether or not they do or not, I don't know. So as you can see, Clay Jefferson is the one that's right on top. But so I took those and paired up the names. No biggie. I then went for tournament rating, which is this guy here, which, as you can see, it's I didn't do the dash. I don't think it makes a difference, but anyway, mine doesn't have that. Or the hyphen, whatever you want to call it. The so what I did from there was I decided that I was going to have a certain number of golfers, and the top one I chose for qualifiers was 2A. And originally, we don't have any 2As in this pile here of the leftover cards from the set. But we do have a 2A. We have at least one 2B. There might be two. I can't remember. I think there's one each of the 2s, and then it goes from there. A lot of 4s and 5s. Because I'm assuming they're not going to get as high up. I'm hoping that we could see a few of these guys maybe get into some... at least make some cuts, and who knows, maybe we sneak their way into a final round here or there, and maybe that would be interesting. So what I did was I set up random number generators for each of those names, or so I had a column on a different sheet. This is how I did it. I took the names and I had all the columns for all of the traits. I then took the names, went into another sheet, concatenated them, so I basically turned it into a single name, so it was just easier to do. I then set up a random number generator for each. There's 50 of them here, so for each name, it generates a random number between 0 and 1. Then what you do is you set up a column next to it where you rank that number against all 50, and that's how you create a random number generator that goes from 1 to 50. So what I then did was took those numbers. And so each name had a random number associated for it. And I did this. I would recalculate, and I set up probably 10 columns that had random numbers that we would use for these qualities. And so for each quality, it was tied to one of those columns. So like the woods quality, there's sort of like a general quality for the way someone hits woods. It's or there's really two qualities. It's well, there's more than that. I think it's let me see. Well, King is one, and I think maybe Legend and King are the qualities for that. There's also Bomber or Puny, which is long or short hitter. There's also Shaper, which is someone who is even more accurate, or needs to have their accuracy tweaked. And then there's also Scatter, which is someone who's less accurate and would be kind of tweaked the other way. So I mean, when you're designing golfers based on real life players, these things you can use. There are some statistical designations for each of those that will help you kind of dial in the players using those. I just wanted to use those to set up completely random guys, and so I just set the random number generators for woods, for irons, putting, recovery, experience. They were completely I won't say they're the for each player is randomized. I did have a certain number in, like I had a statistical, what I would say a very rough statistical idea of where I wanted to, I didn't want to have absolute best guys there. I also didn't want to have the hackers, which I think the hacker designation probably turns guys into just chumps, and I didn't want to do that for this set because I just felt like it was probably not realistic. I think you'd want to use hacker if you were somewhat getting a bunch of guys that you knew were going to be in that, 75 to 80 range in terms of total score for a round. I'm not sure 100%. I could look at the designer notes, and it probably has some info on that. But so anyway, it's like that's kind of what my philosophy was to just set, okay, there's going to be, out of 50, there's 10% that are bombers, and then there are 10% that don't hit the ball very long. And then in the middle is going to be the vast majority of guys. And it's kind of the same way with these designations. There's sort of an array of different qualities. Same thing with the putting, the clutch putting qualities, the recoveries, all that stuff. And it partly goes off of what Keith sells as a player creation document. It also partly goes from my own idea of how I wanted this to be set up. And also knowing that this is relatively random. So you're going to get guys that, you may have a guy in here who is like extremely awesome. And then you're probably going to have a lot of guys who have sort of mixtures of qualities that are going to, harmonize together to, maybe make a pretty, average to maybe even above average golfer. And then you're going to have some that come together to make a below average golfer. And then you have some that just don't play well. But then you're also going to have, because of the way that History Maker Golf plays, I think you're also going to have that statistical element of the dice roll, which will potentially give even a bad golfer or below average golfer the opportunity to maybe get some luck and get on a roll. And I think that's where we're going. So anyway, so that's how I did that. And the template comes out nice. I changed it to a different font. This will help me, number one, keep things separate. They're the same size, maybe a little wider. I don't know. That's okay. I'm going to do my best to try and not let that influence me. But anyway, so what this does, give me 50 more golfers. I can combine these two packs. Now I have about 80, between 80 and 90 golfers that I'm going to dwindle into 31. Okay, so that was a lot of explanation and a lot of talking, and I hope people understand what my point is here, which is, I wanted to have sort of a personal flair and some personal sort of equity into this tour. So I think this kind of gives me this thought that if one of these guys wins, I'm going to feel pretty proud of the fact that I came up with him, probably. The other thing is that it gives me more depth. The third thing, well, there's two more things that it does. It familiarizes me with this template, because I do want to recreate a leaderboard from around, let's say, 1988 or 89 on the PGA Tour, and make a set that's based off of that. That's a memory that I had, those players, a lot of really good players, and sort of a transition time in pro golf. It was a time when there wasn't a whole lot of dominance. You're going from the Jack and Tom Watson era and bridging over to the Tiger Woods era of dominance. And I threw Tom Watson in there. I'm not even sure he necessarily in there. Jack Nicklaus was his own legend in a way, and Tiger Woods is his own legend. And you had a time in that around 1980 to 1994, or maybe even 85 to 95, if you would, where there was sort of a void in that kind of top quality player on the tour. And I think that's an interesting time. So it does that, and it also I had the other, I'll think of it here in a minute. I know what it is. It also starts to give me, so I've got 50 here. I'm probably going to make another 100 to 150. I have designs on trying to do a web.com tour. It may be more abbreviated. It may be like 10 to 15 events. I don't know if I'll broadcast that, but I really like the idea of going into the 2019 version of this tour with the top 125 getting tour cards, and the top, I have to look it up. It might be, I think it's 25 maybe from the web.com also getting tour cards. So that takes us up to 150. And I think that's probably more realistic. I just have to get my head wrapped around exactly how the PGA Tour does it, because that's the way that I would like to do it if possible. Some of the realities of this current form of the tour are the way they are because I don't have the history behind it yet. And that's what this history maker is about, is creating the history. Once we have some history created, it will inform the next Hawaiian Challenge, which is a tournament of champions. In real life, we'll be able to have a tournament of champions. And that will play out much differently than other tournaments because we won't have a cut. So, but anyway, so let's get back to this preparation for the Open, which there's a lot of, that was just a lot of how-to stuff. And I'll put in the comments about what exactly this is about. But so this is my plan to choose qualifiers. This is a number that if you're going to play History Maker Golf, you should try to remember. When you do this pile method for the making the cut, and actually that reminds me, I need to get that chart out. So give me a moment. Here it is, right on top. So if you recall, there are charts. There's really just one chart, big chart here, that is the primary. This has all sorts of stuff. It has the first 2 rounds, making the cut. It has the 3rd round, and staging the final round. It also has this emerging contenders. It has a way to score out the other contending golfers here. And it's got your tourney day perks. But on this side, it's got the making the cut. I would say there is a cheat. Here's a little cheat, if you want to call it that, or a hack, if you want to remember. The point of this making the cut round is to get roughly 70 golfers into the final 2 rounds. So, and what you do is you have a morning pairings, which are 8 piles, and afternoon pairings, which are 8 piles. So that's 16 piles. If you do the math and know that the point for it all is to try to get around 70 golfers, plus or minus. If you could do the math and you take 70, divide it by 16, and you get around 4.5, say 4.4 roughly, golfers that you will select per pile. So by this method here, and this is also going to, at least at this point, I'm going to ignore the outstanding for this qualifier setup. You would get, if you just go ahead and do exactly what they say here, choose a top golfer and draw 4, or draw 1 and choose the top 3 remaining, and we'll do that here. You should get, if you did 16, you should get around 70. If you do 8, you should get around 35, or 35 thereabouts. If you want 31, you should do 7. What I'm going to do is, because like I said, you get 35 with 8 if you do that sort of back extrapolation. So you'll have 35. What does that mean? We need 31. This is what I think it means. And this is going to be kind of cool. It just came to me just like this morning, thinking it through. Here's what I'm going to do. So we're going to do 8 piles. And like I said, that should be about 35. It may be more. But what we're going to do is the last golfer from each pile, and I'm also going to take probably the second to last and set it aside. But the last golfer from each pile selected is going to go into the quote-unquote bubble. The bubble is going to play around at the course at Pacific Pines, and I will probably broadcast that round. It's gonna, hopefully it's just going to be 2 or 3 groupings, but we'll see. If it's 8, then it's going to go down to 8, and then basically what that's going to do is all of the guys that aren't in that are, all the guys taken before that are going to be in, and then what we're going to do is from there, make a decision on how we're going to play out those final pairings in order to make the bubble, and we're going to have some guys fall out at that point. So that's, I guess what I'm saying is that we're going to assume that all the other guys easily finish their Monday qualifier well into the without any question, and then the rest of these guys are going to be questionable, and we'll take care of those and see how it works out. And so let's do that. This is a trial basis here, and if it doesn't work out, I'll try something else. But what we first have to do is take all of these cards, all 80 or so, and so there's going to be about 10 per pile. We're going to need to, you know what I wanted to do? Bear with me for a moment here while I'm going to go get a bag. Okay, well, I got one here. I'm gonna use a storage bag from now on, but in this case, because it's handy, I'm going to use a shopping bag, a plastic shopping bag. You might say, "Oh boy, you don't know what's in that. Is it going to get your cards ruined?" Yeah, I'm worried about that. But it looks relatively clean, and what I'm going to be able to do here now is kind of like pretty easily shake these guys up a bit. Hopefully randomize them some. I'm sure some of you, because if you knew what store it was from, you'd probably say, "Oh boy, you know who sneezed their rhinovirus or whatever into that bag." But yeah, it's okay. That's what an immune system's for, right? So I'm doing my best here to try and turn these things over and get them. This is about this to me. I kept thinking through, and I figured this might be the best way to get some form of randomization, because throwing them out on the table probably doesn't help much either, and even doing it this way doesn't really help a whole lot probably. But it's just really tough to find a method to get these cards to where they are not all sort of sticking together and not like getting thoroughly mixed. So and I'll probably still do a mix, so let's probably still do some kind of a shuffle. So now I've got to try my best to get these guys turned back over. I think I did a reasonable job here, but the proof will be in the pudding. I'm gonna try and do a little bit of extra. Alright, so some of them are going to be upside down, some are going to be right side up. We're going to not use a lot of, we're going to try to keep it as unbiased as possible here, regardless of how we see these things. So I'm going to do the best I can. Alright, so and we'll do a quick shuffle here or two. Again, it's really not an easy process to shuffle these cards. They like to stick together. No criticism. It's just a fact of life. And all right, let's just call that good. So, okay, I'm relatively satisfied. These guys are going to go through a second pile draw as well. So I mean, these guys are going basically through the ringer of a Monday qualifier, and less than half of them are going to be even into that first group into the first group. And see, you can see here we already have a player showing up there on top. I would rather not see guys' names, but if it happens, it happens. Again, we're trying to be, my point in this is not to you know, defraud the process that's happening here. It's to, you know, I want to make this as honest as I can, because I like doing these tournaments, and I think it's an interesting thought experiment. I think that's the reason that we get into these things. So, you know, and I feel like that's something that could be a problem in a like the Phillies replay that I'm doing. That could be one problem that comes into that, is if you are too emotionally invested in it, you could do things that hurt it if you don't be careful. And so I try not to. I try to keep it straight, play it straight, and then that'll be good. So, okay, again, I'm going to get my tablet out of the way, so that way I have, and actually, I have a need for another couple of index cards. So, if you recall, where's my notebook? Oh, here you are. Where's my pen? If you recall, I made up a couple of cards to... Oh, right up there it is. Alright, I did this too. So this is going to be... actually, I don't need 3, I need 2. Actually, what I could... You know what? Why don't I save... Better idea. Let's save the paper, save a tree, and what we'll do is this. We can repurpose these cards. It's missed the cut, make the cut, and there's also there should be one here that's outstanding. Yeah, we don't need that. What we'll do is we'll just turn this upside down and say qualified, and on the bubble. So again, and here's the other thing I'm going to do. Oh boy. One of my children is up, so that's going to make things interesting. Here's the other thing I'm going to do, because we've got sort of a... I'm going to use the decider die to determine whether or not the last golfer will be drawn or the top golfer in that group. So that will give us sort of a 50-50 shot. Not sort of. It will give us a 50-50 shot. So here we go. I got to get going with this so we get this done in under an hour. So we're going to do 8 piles here. I'm going to roll these 3 dice, and we use the making the cut chart, and we'll go from there. So pile number 1, we get 26, and it will be out of the we'll say that the blank is the draw pile. So 26 is we draw 4 and we choose the top 2. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a D20 to do the drawings. And again, I got this. I have that sitting in a place that's going to fall over if I don't watch it. Okay. So let's go. So the top card, the first card will be drawn. And they will be Samson Peterson will qualify. Then the 10th from there, 1, 2, 3, 4. Let me make sure. 4, 5. 6. 7, 8, 9, 10. It'll be Steve Runyon, and so then this was 11. Well, actually 11 and 12. Right, yeah. So 1, so 11 is going to go in, and then the next golfer, so Bobby Maddox, the final golfer, be 3, 1, 2, 3, and this guy is going to be the one that's on the bubble. And you didn't see that. Nope. We're going to put Mateo Solo in the bubble, and he's a 2A, boy. Well, let's see here. And we got the top. Things will get easier once we go through this once. Well, we got a pile of basically almost all customs, but that's okay. Let's see. Top 2 remaining. Well, that'll be Mackay, Berry, and we've got a 4C. We got 2 4Cs. So we're not going to take both. I'm going to decide whether it's Pranav Patel or Yair Santana. It's not Patel. It's not Santana. It is Patel. It's not Santana. So Patel goes in and Santana goes out. Oh, wait a minute. Never mind. Chris Funk is a C, 3C. I don't know why I didn't see that. He'll be in. So, wait a minute. What did I do? Yeah, Mackay Berry. Alright. This didn't go exactly the way I wanted it to, but it'll be okay. Alright, so I guess I should have the other one here to say miss the cut or whatever. Okay, so well, this is going to be an adventure. Alright, so 11, it means the top golfer only will be in the bubble. So let's take a look and see who the top golfer is. 4B, 4A, 2C, so CJ Hope is probably going to be it. Yeah, everybody else is 4 and above, so CJ Hope will be in this on the bubble. These guys will be over there, and so we didn't even need to do a draw at that time. 55 for pile 3. I'm going to move these up a little bit. So that's the top 5 golfers. Okay, let's see. So the lowest of the top 5 golfers will be on the bubble. My trick for these to make sure they aren't sticking together is to hold them up to the light, and sometimes I forget that. Because if you see the same name from both sides, you know that there's no other one in there. Yes, okay, so the top 5 from this go. So 1, so it'll be these 4, and then the last one is the 4B. So Christopher Heath will be in the bubble. These 4 guys are all going to make it. They'll be qualified for the tourney. Okay. 13 with a dot, so it'll be the top golfer that goes into the on the bubble from this. So draw 2. All right, so just roll first. So 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and this, so it should be this one. Hyro Roach. Oh, wait, no. Let's draw, what, 2? No, Yeah, 13 is draw 2. Okay, so we need to re-roll this. And so this guy will also be qualified, and that's a 9. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Dylan Reed. And then the top one from the rest of these will be on the bubble. It's going to be Bob Demelmeyer at a 2B, unless there's a tie. And there's not, so. Okay, so 4 piles down, 4 to go. And we're at 40 minutes, so this is moving along swimmingly. Sounds like my daughter's the one that's up, who is the much more self-sustaining. Okay, 36. Draw 3, top 3 remaining. Okay. That's a 4. Oh, might as well just flip them over here. 1, 2, 3, and number 4, Dallas Downs. 16. Okay, so we're going to flip out the rest of these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. And and that means we take the top golfer, not the draw golfer, the last top golfer. A couple of these names have misspellings. They were misspelled in the random list generator, so I left them that way. So if you don't like it, tough. All right, so not to be mean, but and then 18. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Austin Montgomery. Now the top 5 or the top 3 that are left. So Boyd Yeager is the first one. Then we've got 4 A's here, 2, 3, and we've got to determine whether it's Carter Jacobs or Kenneth Hahn who will be. The rest of these guys are going to go in the sorry pile. But okay, so who qualifies outright? Is it Carter? No. Is it Kenneth? No. Is it Carter? No. Is it Kenneth? Yes. So Kenneth will go over here. Carter will go there. We will re-roll for the next pile. It's a 12. 1 each. So we roll the D20 once. It's 12. So we're going to have to go through most of these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Oh, and he's the one. Madden McLean will be the one because the dot's not showing. Since it's the last draw. So then the top golfer out of these, a 4A, I guess. Isaiah Rogers. Okay. A lot of these other players are feeling jilted because they all these other players came into the tour and they're stealing their thunder. I mean, you know, Sebastian Sato is like, man, I would have had that. I would have been in this tournament if it wasn't for these guys. All right, 2 more piles and we'll be done. And then maybe a little later today, I'll set up the the final qualification thing. 15 is draw 4, top remaining. 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And it will be the last drawn golfer. So Sage Hass. So then it's we have to draw 4. It's going to be most of these guys. 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Bruno Cortez. 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Will Janis, he finally makes a cut, and then the last draw goes into the bubble, and it's a 1, so it'll be Michael Graham. And then we will take the top one after that, and it'll be the 4A of Tyler Gentry. And 1 more pile to do. 56, 1, and then the top 5, and it will be the final top golfer. So we draw 1, and it's a 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It'll be Rudy Wallace, the drawn golfer that goes in. And then the top, what is it? The top 5 remaining, and the top 5 remaining, and then the lowest of those 5. So it'll be these 2 guys, Gooch and Ji-Woon. There's 1, 2, and maybe 3 more. 3, 4, 5. Jürgen Biedermann. And the rest of these guys will, and you can see this here is Toshio. He had to qualify, and he got the bitter end there. So these guys are qualified. How many are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. 25 by my count, and then there's 8 over there, which makes, what, 33? So I'm going to recount those. If that's the case, we've got 8 here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 33, we need 31. So that means 6 out of the 8 will qualify. The low 2 will be out. We'll play around with those guys, and I'm going to double check this to make sure that it's true that there are 25 in there. However many there are at least 25. And so, however many there are, if there's more than 25 that are in this pile, we'll take away from the number that qualify from here. So that's where it stands. Gonna shut this down. Thanks for watching. We'll be back sometime today or tomorrow with the rest of this round. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. And enjoy your tabletop games.